Hello, Tim Kanak with Perkins Roofing. And in this video, we're going to talk about the new law that was put in place by DeSantis, by the Florida government, to now allow for metal roofs in every neighborhood. No matter whatever your HOA says, they cannot restrict you from putting a metal roof now in your neighborhood, because a metal roof is a upgrade for wind and for water intrusion, and they cannot stop you from upgrading your home, upgrading the value of the community, even upgrading the value of your home, not just in value, but also the quality and the functionality of your home. So now you can put a metal roof on your house wherever you live. So this video is going to be talking about different types of metal roofing, because people get confused. They just think, I want a metal roof. I want a metal roof. Well, there's a million different types of metal roofs. So we're going to talk about the different types of metal roofs, how this law is going to affect you, how this law is going to affect HOAs. I've been going to different HOAs lately and discussing with the boards on what will be allowed and what won't be allowed as far as aesthetics for metal roofing in communities. So if you want to set up a meeting with me, if you're in an HOA or you run an HOA with homes in it, or whether it's a building, a high-rise condo or a neighborhood with 1,000 houses in it, I can meet with you and discuss how this is going to affect your HOA. Here we are now in our presentation. So here we go. This is what the new law is. If you want to look it up, CSHB 293, Hurricane Protections for Homeowners Associations. This is what DeSantis had just passed. I think it was in September, October of 2024. So verbatim, this says Hurricane Protections for Homeowners. Hurricane Protections for Homeowners Associations requires board or committee of homeowners association to adopt hurricane protection specifications. Requires such specifications conform to applicable building codes. Prohibits board or committee of association, this is what's important, from denying application for installation enhancement, which metal is an enhancement or replacement of certain hurricane protection. Authorizes a requirement to adhere to certain guidelines regarding external appearance or structure or improvement on parcel. So basically this means that the HOAs, cannot prohibit you from enhancing your home for hurricane protection. So they can't stop you from enhancing your home for hurricane protection, right? They can't now say metal roofs don't go with the look of the community. You can't do a metal roof. And I know it's kind of vague. It doesn't specifically mention metal roofs, but when you actually open the law, you can see at the bottom of page 2 as it continues on to page 3, it says, for purposes of this subsection, the term hurricane protection, hurricane protection includes but is not limited to metal roofs, permanent fixed storm shutters, roll down track storm shutters, impact resistant windows and doors, polycarbonate panels, reinforced garage doors, erosion controls, and other hurricane protection products used to preserve and protect the structures. So basically it says right here, metal roofs. They cannot stop you from installing a metal roof on your home any longer. That's what this law is saying in regards to roofing specific items. Just like how they can't stop you from putting hurricane shutters on your home. They can't stop you from installing impact windows, because you're protecting your home from hurricane damages. The reason that they put this law in place is that the insurers right now have too much risk. They have too much liability on the line. That's why companies like Citizens Insurance at this time in 2024 are giving clients away. If you're Citizens, is your insurance, it's very possible that they removed you from this insurance and just gave you away, or they're trying to give you away. The reason they're doing this is because there's too much liability. They don't have the money. They don't have the assets to cover all the liability that they have taken to this point in the event of a major hurricane. So that's why they're giving this away. That's why DeSantis and the state of Florida is really hammering down on trying to get people to upgrade their homes for hurricanes, because it has cost the state and the country, FEMA, so much money recently with these hurricane damages that, and like all the insurance companies, that there's just way too much liability and risk out there. And how do you eliminate that liability and how do you get rid of that risk? You put a metal roof. All right. This picture, I literally took this yesterday. This is like a month after the hurricane happened, where there were tornadoes. What was it? Hurricane Milton, I think, or something like that is what it was called. But this is like a month after the storm. You can see the damages that occurred to the tile roof from this storm. This is just one tile roof. Look at all the missing tiles. You see the exposed underlayments, all this tile trash all over the place. They had to put tarps up because there are leaks now in the home. This is what a hurricane will do to a tile roof. Now, literally across the street, and you can see this is the same neighborhood. Look at the roads, look at the sidewalks. Same neighborhood, same drone flight. I just changed the camera from one side to the other. Look what it did to the shingle roof. Literally trash. It just destroyed the structure. So you can see the tiles, all it did to the tile roof here is it ripped the tiles off. The underlay, and there are some leaks, but the actual structure is still intact. It didn't cause the structure to fail. In the shingle roof here, you can see that right here where my arrow is, you can see that the actual trusses failed. They collapsed. So the wind, and this is an architectural shingle roof, led to structural failure of the architectural shingle roof. And behind here, you can see more tile roofs with tarps on it, more tile roof. You can see the one all the way back here is already getting re-roofed. You can see there's a wood deck. And guess what they were re-roofing this one to? Metal. It was tile before because you can see all the old foam patties here on this black paper. And they're re-roofing this one to metal. I actually know who, you see the roll former out here. I actually know this company, but they're doing sheet metal standing seam on this one. Look at the metal roof here. No tarp, no damages. They still have their plywood up in the windows, but on the roof, perfectly fine. Nothing at all. All these other roofs are rocked. This tile roof here has a giant tarp on it. The tile roof that I went to go see for this estimate got rocked. This tile roof has a tarp on it. This one is getting changed from tile to metal. This shingle roof, structural failure, and the metal roof, perfectly fine. This is why this code exists. And this is why I am always recommending standing seam metal if you can afford it. My general recommendations are to re-roof to either architectural shingle or metal. And you saw this led to structural failure here. Now, the reason I say architectural shingle or metal is because tile and metal is close to the same price point. Metal is a little more expensive than tile roof, but shingle roof is significantly cheaper. So if a shingle roof is all you can afford, then at least do an architectural shingle. Do not do a 3-tab shingle. But if you can afford a tile roof, you can almost definitely afford a metal roof. It's barely more expensive, and the protection is so much greater. Look at this. Not to mention, on a tile roof, you have maintenance. You have to pressure clean tiles. You get broken tiles from palm tree crap falling on the tiles that you're always fixing. On a metal roof, there's no maintenance. So over time, within a 10-year period, the difference between the tile roof and the metal will pay for itself because of you don't have to do any maintenance on it. Whereas the tile roof, you're constantly having to pay people to come clean the tiles, repair broken tiles, blah, 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 blah. Nothing on the metal roof. Now, this is very important. A lot of people do not understand that there are different types of metal panels. People just say, I want a metal roof. I want a metal roof. Okay, but what type of metal roof do you want? You can see here the various panel types. Number one, we have exposed fasteners. The standard panel that you're installing with exposed fasteners on a house is a 5V crimp. On Florida rooms and other rooms, you might install like a corrugated panel or on like commercial properties. But on a house, it will generally be 5V crimp, which is kind of like what I call key style roofing. This is lower performance. What happens with exposed fastener roofs is, number one, workmanship issues. A lot of times people will miss screws, or people will use the wrong screws because the systems come with stainless steel fasteners, but it's cheaper to use galvanized screws. So a lot of contractors out there will just put galvanized screws in and then the screws rust out. So it's very important to use stainless steel screws if you're going to do a 5D crimp roof. Even if you use stainless steel screws, though, the roof is not going to last much longer than a tile roof because these screws have neoprene washers, which are made out of rubber, and that rubber over time will deteriorate. There you go. Now, Hidden fastener systems, there are two types of panels. You have snap lock, which for Gulf Coast, their snap lock panel is a 1-inch seam that rises up from the roof. That's the seam comes up 1 inch over the panels. And then you have a crimped roof, which is 1.5-inch seam. The hidden fastener systems, you can see the difference between the panels. Snap lock systems are less expensive and have a quicker install. Crimped systems have a better seal and better wind performance than the snap lock system. The crimp systems are a little more money because they take longer. Time is money. And also you have an extra 0.5 inches of metal because the seam is higher. So they're slightly more expensive on the metal price itself. Stamped panels. Now, this is when people say, I want a metal tile or I want a metal shingle. This is what you're talking about. So stamped panels are panels that are literally it's metal that is stamped to look like a shingle or a tile, just like how you can stamp concrete to make it look like pavers or to make concrete look like tiles. You can stamp it. You can do this with metal. That's why it's called a stamped panel. So stamped panels or metal tiles, if you will, have varying aesthetics. They have exposed fasteners because the panels are screwed in from the top. Not like standing seam. You can't clip it from behind. You have to screw them in from the top. And they're generally more expensive than doing a standing seam, which is also generally more expensive than doing a 5V, because 5V panels, you're not clipping anything in. You just zip all the panels in one by one. So 5E is cheaper, but I don't recommend it because you're not getting the benefits of a metal roof. You're getting quote unquote a metal roof, but that 5E roof is probably going to last only like 25 years, depending on like saltwater distance to saltwater and what kind of metal you put on there. Whereas standing seam roof has a 35-year warranty on it, and it will probably last longer, up to 50 years or even longer if you keep recoating. If you do a PVDF finish, if you have a Kynar coating on it and you keep recoating it before you get rust spots, that roof will last even longer. Stamped panels have a 35-year warranty. I think that's a good time horizon, like 35 to 40 years on those stamped panel systems. You can also recoat those. I have a video. You can look it up. I think it's like a 3-parter where we did a roof restoration on a high rise of a stamped panel system, metal tiles. So you can check that out if you want to see what that looks like. So you can always restore all of these. Even the 5V, you can recoat them. You can change the screws out and recoat them, which is what we did on the stamped. You have to still change the screws out if they're rusted. So you can restore any of these metal roofs, unlike a tile roof. There is no product. You can't coat tile roofs. I know there are all kinds of tile roof coatings out there, but they're for aesthetics or for stopping the roof from getting dirty. So it may prolong the roof life a few years if you do that, but it's not going to make the roof last forever like coating a metal roof will, because tile naturally absorbs moisture. So where metal does not absorb any moisture, it all reflects off. So that's the difference, is that tile has been soaking in moisture even before you paint it. That tile has soaked in moisture. So there's been moisture that has infiltrated the system. And you also need areas for hot air that is in your attic to escape. So if you don't have proper ventilation on a tile roof, then what's going to happen is that the air will come up. And if you coat the tile roof, it has no escape. And what's going to happen is that humidity and that moisture is going to get stuck into the bottom side of the plywood, and it's going to cause collapse. Whereas on a metal roofing system, the metal roofing systems are designed for expansion and contraction, so hot air will escape. Now, in wind uplift tests, metal roofs earn, this is important, a 140 mile per hour wind rating according to the Metal Roofing Alliance, and some can withstand gusts up to 180 miles per hour. So this is directly on the Gulf Coast page here. The crimped systems perform better than these other systems. So while most metal roofing systems will have a 140 mile per hour wind rating, hiding the fasteners and having a crimp system will perform better, because those crimp systems, once those panels are together, they're not coming apart. Wind is not going to uplift between them. If you have a stamped tile system or a 5V, you have openings. There are openings where wind or water can infiltrate and lift up panels, or water can eventually get in through fasteners or through the gaps between the panels. There is no gap on a hidden fastener system. Snap lock, and excessive winds can still pop open panels. I've seen it. Hand crimped, I've never seen that. Personally, I've never seen that. So if that happens, it's basically the whole roof deck is coming off when you lose a hand crimped metal roof. So panel materials, this is very important. This photo here you can see is actually in Key Largo, one of my clients' roofs. Panel materials. And you can see those panels there. Those are actually aluminum standing seam panels, and this is on the saltwater. But why is the drip metal? Why is the eave rusting? My assumption at this roof, because this whole roof is like this, and there's like 13 buildings, and they all have these issues. My assumption is that when they were originally installed, the fasteners are not stainless steel. So you can see the panels themselves are fine, but the eaves are rusting, probably due to electrolysis over time of not having stainless steel fasteners. Maybe it's galvanized fasteners with all aluminum panels, and just over time, electrolysis is occurring, causing these rust and these leak spots. So you need to make sure that you have all the correct materials, not just the panels, but also the accessories on any project. So steel comes in 26 gauge and 24 gauge traditionally for any type of roofing panel. You can get them Kynar coated versus mill finish. The Kynar coating is going to help protect the roof from rust. So Kynar coating it not only looks better aesthetically in most cases, but it's also going to protect the metal from rusting. I generally only quote 24 gauge. I will not even quote 26 gauge. Just so you know, 24 gauge is heavier than 26. It's like the reverse of aluminum, which we'll get to in a second, which makes it kind of confusing. But 24 gauge is thicker and heavier than 26 gauge. And steel has a 35-year warranty. Aluminum, there are two different panels that Gulf Coast makes. One is an ocean panel in aluminum that has a 35-year warranty, but their standard panel only has a 25-year warranty. Anywhere within 2,500 linear feet of salt water, you want to be using aluminum, which also means all stainless steel fasteners. And panel thicknesses, you're usually looking at 032 or 040. 040 is thicker than 032. Stone coated, which is a stamped system. Stone coated stamped systems, because they make them like flat painted, and they also make them stone coated. The stone coated systems, the stone coating on that actually protects from rust and salt. And if you Kynar coat steel stamped panels, that will also help. You can see in the building, in the videos of the building that we did, where we did the waterproofing that I had already mentioned on the high rise, that is, those panels are steel and they're painted. But the paint has helped that metal from avoiding rust, even though it's on the intercoastal, and even though it's like right across the street from the ocean, and even though how high up it is, you're going to get a lot of salt blowing up there from storms. So the Kynar coating will help steel last longer on the water or near the water. If you do it, if you just do mill finish, it's going to rust pretty quick. I've seen 2-year-old roofs rust when they're installed mill finish steel on the water. So just be wary of that. The stone coated panels, though, that stone coating helps protect from saltwater corrosion and has a 35-year warranty. You can also do custom panels in copper or stainless steel. It's rare. Generally, like government buildings or churches will do it because it's so expensive, but you can do copper and stainless steel too. It's just not a standard thing for a residential home. Underlayments. Different underlayments of the roof. This red paper here is Polyglass XFR. I have talked about this in other videos before. This was actually kind of like my idea. I was talking to a bunch of the Polyglass people on one of the quantum trips that they take us on when you're the highest tier contractor with them. And they had Polyglass MTS. And you can put MTS under metal anywhere except for Miami-Dade. And I was like, and I think in California you couldn't either. But I was like, why don't you guys make a fire barrier and a water barrier in one? Because if you do that, you'll sell a ton of it. It'll just go under metal. And they're like, we already have an under metal. It's MTS. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a fire barrier. If you do MTS, you still have to put VersaShield under it to get your fire rating. And then it's too expensive. And so they developed XFR to replace MTS if you wanted a fire and a water barrier. I highly recommend it because metal melts. So installing the XFR will help if you have a fire in your house, it'll help your whole house from just going up and the metal melting everywhere. So I recommend it to put the XFR, though it is cheaper to put the MTS. If you're not in high velocity hurricane zone where you have to put XFR because you have to have a class A UL rating. Now, you can see here in the bottom corner, Versus Shield. This is the old way. I haven't done this in years since XFR came out. This is an old picture from an old metal roof we did. But you see the Versus Shield, it's very thin. It's only 24 mils. The XFR is 80 mils. The Versus Shield is so thin, it does not even act as a water barrier. So I don't recommend it. The other thing, too, you see these screws here where my arrow is, these screws and these tin caps on this Versus Shield. Over time, this tin here is going to be touching this metal. It's going to cause electrolysis, and these panels are going to go bad. So if you do Versus Shield under a metal, the metal can still rust out just from electrolysis of dissimilar metals touching, especially if you do an aluminum roof. So you just have to be wary if you're doing a nailable base sheet and you don't recover it with a self-adhered, that these tin tags can actually rust out the panels. Here's an example of a 5V or island style panel roof. This is a roof. You can see on the left two pictures here. They had leaks in the roof, and it was all because these fasteners were all leaking. They're rusted out, raising up. So what we did for this client is we just came through and backed out all the screws and put in all new stainless steel screws. You can see now they're all shiny and new in stainless steel versus rusted out galvanized screws. This is why it's very important to make sure on exposed fasteners, you need to make sure the right type of screw is used. When galvanized is installed new, it actually kind of looks, it's hard to tell the difference unless you really know what a screw looks like because it's still shiny and silver. Unless you really know and you're working with the material all the time, it's hard to tell the difference between galvanized and stainless. Now, this client, I also did recommend them to restore this roof in the near future because you can see on the bottom here where the kynar has flaked off, there is rust stains starting. And once rust stains start, it's going to eventually rust out and turn into holes. So that's why it's very important to waterproof the roof before you start getting this rusting like this. This is the standing seam roof. You can see screws all in the roof, island style. Now no screws. How nice and pretty and seamless looking, right? In all these pictures. You can see in this picture actually a solar vent, which is an important detail. A lot of people get this wrong. They'll install skylights and solar vents and vents into these standing seam roofs and just simply caulk them in. You don't want to just be caulking these things in. When you're installing vents like this or skylights on a standing seam roof, you want to do a curb mounted install and create a custom box. So this metal here is all custom. We basically ordered a 4x10 sheet of metal in the color that we were installing, and then built this custom box so that water cannot just hit a vent and leak through, because eventually caulking will deteriorate and you have to recaulk it. Otherwise, you're going to get a leak. People, when the roof is done, are not going to think about recaulking it until there is a leak, and it's going to be too late because by the time you notice there's a leak, it's already coming through drywall and wood, and you have damaged wood, and then you have to do a big repair. You're better off, and repairs on standing seam roofs are extremely expensive because you have to take out multiple panels just for one little area because, again, they're hand bent. So if you have hand bent panels, the only way to get them apart is to cut them, and you're cutting a bunch of panels when you do that. So they're tricky doing standing seam repairs and expensive. So you want to make sure that it's done correctly. I have never had a standing seam metal roof leak that I have done, but we box these details in like this. It costs more. So if you're installing a vent or a skylight on a tile or a shingle roof versus a standing seam roof, it will cost more on a standing seam roof because I am going to box it in with a 4x10 sheet. We're going to build basically a curb up with 2x4s and then box those 2x4s in and create a seal so that water cannot hit this joint on this L joint and leak. Now you can see down here all the different colors. This is like a charcoal gray. This is the patinaed copper. This one is a lighter, like a medium dove gray. So we have two different grays here. And then you can see the XFR here. These white stripes, it's not stripes, it's just incomplete. We haven't put the hip and ridge metal on yet at the time of that picture. Stamped metal. You can see all the variations here. You can see they make stamped metal that looks like wood shakes or shingles. They make it that look like Mediterranean roof tiles. Like this is pretty much the tile that you see in my videos. on that high rise that I had already previously mentioned twice now. And then you see they also make them that look like flat tiles or slate tile. So they make them in all kinds of colors, textures, and finishes. United Steel is one of the ones that I generally am using, or Decra. There's also Telcor and a number of others. But for Florida, Decra and United Steel are the big ones that I've been using. United Steel is owned by Westlake, which also makes Boral roof tiles. So they're a big manufacturer of roofing materials. Talking about the restorations, here's photos of the restoration from the video. So you can see this is a stamped tile, right? You can see the screws, exposed screws. In the video, if you watch it, we change the screws and we recoat the roof. You can see we do like a flashing details with a thermoplastic coating and then seal over it with an acrylic that makes it nice and red and vibrant when before the color had kind of dulled a little bit because this roof is very old. Michael Jackson actually used to live in this building back in the day. And we had done the flat roof, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. So you can restore these metal roofs. Here is the stone coated. You can see the difference between the stone coating and the regular stamped. You see how smooth some of these other stamped metals are versus this one, which has the stone coating on it. The other thing on the stone coating is, and on any metal, this is very important to keep in mind, is that you have to replace wall flashings on metal roofs. Because generally these flashings here on a tile roof, it's just an L piece. It's in the shape of an L. In Miami-Dade, it's 5x7. In the rest of Florida, it's 4x5. L metals is the minimum that you're going to put on the walls. And if that L metal is in good shape, a lot of the time it's embedded in the stucco. And to get it out, you have to cut the stucco. We're only going to do that if it's rusted or if the inspector is making us. Otherwise, we're going to leave that L metal, and the reason being is then we're cutting stucco and cutting open your walls, and you're doing wall repairs, which gets expensive. Like you can see on this home here, all the new wood. We had to replace basically all of their T111. And actually, when we opened up the T111 on this house, the structure behind the T111 had all been termited out. So we ended up having to do a bunch of structural wall repairs, putting on new vertical waterproofing paper, and then putting on the wood. So it was a lot of work doing this on this particular house. So with a metal roof, you have to remove that L flashing metal because your L flashing metal on a metal roof has a clip on it, and your panels, whether they're stone coated or standard panels, are going to clip back. And you actually see the stone coated panels come with a what I like to call like an apron flashing system, where the apron flashing comes back over the panels themselves. On a standing seam, you're going to have a Z-bar and a butyl tape. So that's going to stop water infiltration into the wall. So you run into these different details on a metal roof than what you have on tile and shingle roofs. So you do have to do your wall flashings. No matter what, you're going to have to cut those walls. And again, the solar vents and the skylights must be curb mounted, in my opinion. You can always not do them and caulk them in, but you're probably going to leak in the future if you do that. So I curb mount all my stuff. Even this building here, you can see the skylights here. So that's the presentation. And let's wrap this bad boy up. As always, thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Facebook and our social medias. I even have Josh. I'm trying to get him. You got to help me. I'm trying to get him to start doing some videos in Spanish for all my Spanish friends. For all mi amigos in Miami. So we gotta get the Spanish videos rolling on the Perkins end right now. So try to get Josh to do some Spanish stuff. But thank you for watching. If you are looking for roofing, concrete restoration, impact windows, impact doors, painting, anything exterior, we do everything exterior as GCs and as roofing contractors for you. Give us a call for Miami-Dade, Broward, and the Keys at 305 MIA Roof. Then for St. Lucie, Martin County, for Jupiter, where my branch is, Palm Beach, give me a call at 561-559-ROOF. That's 7663. Just in case you don't want to do the little numbers versus letters on your own, 7663. And then lastly, if you're interested in a Perkins Roofing franchise, you can reach me at any of those numbers. You can reach me in my email. Hit us up, franchise@perkinsroofing.net on the email. or you can call the numbers and ask for Tim and say you're interested in a franchise, having a discussion about a franchise. We have a ton of territories open. Check out that video to see what territories are open. I highly recommend it. Make you some money. You can do the roofing, you can do the impact windows, GC stuff like we do. Whatever you want to do, I will hook it up. I have all the tools to make you successful. I have implemented my own tools, so I have all my own tools that's going to make sure that you're making money in business and you're not losing money. So, and that we can get you running on this gravy train here, Perkins Roofing, and get this thing statewide. Let's make Florida great again, right? Let's get Perkins Roofing all over Florida. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, reach out. Pretty easy to find me. So thanks.